We're going to run with it, right?
Okay.
Until we get a cease and desist.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to Dealcasters the host of the After Hours Entrepreneur Podcast, the founder of Mark Savant Media, and a company that helps busy professionals build status and sales with podcasts. Please welcome to Dealcasters, Mark Savant.
What's up? What's up?
We need applause, don't we? I guess we need applause.
That.
Jim, hit the applause button.
Let me make sure I hit the right button.
Yeah,
I gotta say,
there we go.
The milk and cookies that y'all have in the back room are tremendous. Thank you. Okay, more of that. Need more of that.
You have to thank Jim's wife, Karen, for making those. She
works hard.
It's cinnamon. That's the special. Yeah.
Just keep sending the cinnamon. Thank you, Cal.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for coming on. And and this is not hyperbole. I think when we talk about podcasting, I think there's a lot of blurry lines out there, and people immediately think, okay, well, I have to do podcasting. I have to, my business needs to, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this, and I need to do this. And you have a really great, unique story because you didn't start in the podcasting industry. You had other stuff going on, and then you realized that podcasting was something that not only could help launch you as an entrepreneur, but it's like you became passionate about it, and it really helped you develop a new business that allowed you to live life on your terms with your family and what you're doing now. And I'd love for you to be able to share that unique story with our audience.
Oh, Chris, thanks so much. I just can't express in words how passionate I am about helping people find your why. And I know for years, I woke up hating Mondays. I would stare at the ceiling on Monday morning, be like, I have to go do this for the next 8 hours of my life, soul sucking work. And it's so many people are living this life. So many people. And eventually one day I just decided, I was cranky. I was angry at my wife. I was getting into arguments with my kids. Nothing was working. I was just really unhappy. I said, something has to give. This just cannot proceed. And I started looking at all these different sorts of businesses, right? I'm still working in my insurance job daytime. And then in all my free time, I'm looking at other businesses that I can get into. I looked at everything from Amazon FBA. Shout out to Amazon, by the way. I looked at writing children's books and illustrating children's books. Kind of crazy there. I even looked at opening up a mattress store, real estate, insurance. But what really got me going was when I just considered, I'm listening to podcasts every day trying to figure this stuff out. Why don't I just start one? And podcasting is not for everyone, but it was for me. And I just love the space so much.
That's killer. And so the wonderful part about this is that there are so many people, and I don't know if you want to call it imposter syndrome or whatever, that go, I'm going to start a podcast, but I have this network that's, pretty good. But I really would like to have this person on my podcast. I really would like to have this person on my podcast. And I look at the people that you've had on your podcast, and it's everyone from Chris Do to Roberto Blake to Pat Flynn. There's just if you're going to look at maybe the Mount Rushmore of podcast guests, you've had many of them on your show. And, a lot of people go, I just can't do that, and maybe they want to know the secret of doing that, and I'm not asking you, hey, give us, Mark, give us the shortcuts, right? So that I don't have to do all the work that you did, right? But how did you get all of these folks on your podcast, even maybe before you were where you're at now?
Bro, Chris, to me, the connections are the best part about podcasting. It's unbelievable. The first show that I launched, the Awesome Dad Show, I was within a month, I had no broadcasting experience. I had no media experience. I had no marketing experience. I was selling insurance all day. No experience. I had no business in this industry. Within a month, I had Super Bowl champions on my podcast. I was landing presidential candidates on my podcast. I had landed a meeting with the mayor of our city. This is within 30 days of the show going live. Super powerful, right? And I could tell you all the things I did to make that happen, but instead I'm going to fast forward to where I'm at now, 4 years in the future, because I have a lot more insights now. I learned a lot through those times. So if you want to get an amazing guest on your show, the first thing to think about is how can I provide value to this person? Is that person launching a new book? Do they have a paid community? Do they have a course? Do they have a podcast? Are they posting on Instagram every day? What are they doing? And just try to give them as much value there as possible. Again, someone dropping a new book, that's a perfect time to get them on your podcast because they got a book. They want to tell everyone about their book. If someone's dropping bombs, Brad Lee style, every day on Instagram, follow them. And as soon as they drop that post, leave a quick comment. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, what's up? When you start repeating this, then you start to show up and people start to recognize your face in their feed. And that's when you can go to the DMs and say, hey, love the post today. Would love to get you on my podcast. What's up? And that's another powerful way. And then the third, just a quick takeaway that's been successful for me is join their community. A lot of creators have great communities. They're maybe $50 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month. Join their community. They will almost always want to give you back value.
I love that. Okay, there's a number of things that we can totally unpack there because there's a lot of Amazon influencers, podcasters that watch our show, that listen, team replay, or hear live. And I think the last thing you said is invest. Really, I mean, if you've got to invest, and not just invest in a microphone. Not just invest in the Shure MV7X that Jim's sounding so buttery smooth in tonight. It's not just the camera, the whatever, all of the stuff here in the Amazon carousel. It's investing in your business, which means joining communities, which means increasing your network. All those things are, can be free. There's things that you can get for free by, joining certain things that are. But investing in your community is monstrous. And I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, just want to get as much as they can for free without going, hey, you know what? Roberto Blake has this thing that will cost, X amount per month. Well, maybe I can just figure out what I can get for free and, what you're going to get what you pay for. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing wrong with free, right? Nothing wrong with free.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But I hate using, by the way, I hate using the word but because basically just means forget everything I just said. However,
comma.
However, anyway, when you do pay to be part of someone's community, it's not, I don't go into that with the sole purpose of the only thing I want from this is to get that person on my podcast, because these communities have a lot of like-minded people. A lot of people that, to your point, Chris, are not just looking for the free stuff. They're looking to invest in themselves.
Yeah.
So if we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, if our network truly is our net worth, spending time with people that are investing in themselves levels you up a notch, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being free. I'm in free communities. I do a lot of free things. I think they're great. There is a next tier of business, of monetization, of podcaster, as it were, when you start getting into paid communities. And I'll give you a perfect example. I had Travis Chappell on the show recently. He's the founder of Guestio, host of Build Your Network podcast. And, he really stood out to me because he had sent me an email. I'm on his email list that said, I joined a $100,000 mastermind. And I'm like, what? $100,000 mastermind? That's nuts. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. But when he started, and you'll have to listen to the episodes coming out in a couple of weeks, but when he started laying out what happened after he did that, I'm like, okay, it starts to make sense now. You're landing this client in this deal, in this tech, in this partnership, in this venture. Because, when you're in a mastermind with people that have $100,000 to spend, rule number 1 of business, make sure that the people you're selling to actually have money to buy.
Right.
And so when you're surrounding yourself with people that have money, it levels you up and it builds up more opportunities.
Well, and I love what you said though too, Mark, about and I want to go back to the word invest, because Chris and I talk about this all the time. People will say, well, it costs this, it costs that. But if you're in business, you're making an investment in yourself or in your business. And so your time is an investment. So whether it's a free group, whether it's a paid group, you're investing your time. So even if it's a free group and you're investing your time, you need to make sure that it's worth it, right? And that you're not wasting your time, because that's one thing, as I always say, that we can never get back. So I think that's one of those important things that too many people get caught up in the, oh, I'm having to spend money, but it's like, you need to be evaluating this stuff from time to time. Chris beats me up from time to time about all the things that I invest in subscriptions. And I do know I need to go and look at that sometimes, say, am I using this? If I'm paying for it? But I love how you look at that as an investment.
Absolutely an investment. Absolutely. And you get this when you're trying to build your first six-figure business. There's a lot of expenses. You got your desk, you got internet, you've got insurance, you've got the equipment, the beautiful equipment. So for me, I think prioritizing what's the next step in this process and just continuously reinvest in myself rather than, in a 12 pack every weekend or whatever, right? Just trying to get priority straight on what you're investing in. Certainly an important thing.
So, Mark, when you started Mark Savant Media, when you started in this podcasting business, was it a side hustle? Was it something that originally started as something on the side, sort of like after hours, and then eventually you graduated to that point? Because I think a lot of people don't know when to cut that cord, right? Working on the business, in the business, that kind of stuff. What's that part of your journey about?
Yeah. So, I just love the way this interview is going. We're just like going straight through my doomed days, my horrible Mondays. And so I launched this podcast. I'm getting Super Bowl champions. I'm getting all these amazing people. I'm like, this is awesome. I love this. I hosted the Awesome Dad Show for about a year. And at the end of a year, I said, where are we at? And I knew I wanted to generate income from the show. I knew I wanted to leave my day job. I had that vision in mind. The After Hours Entrepreneur, though, the Awesome Dad Show, I wasn't generating income from. People weren't paying me to teach them how to be a better dad. In fact, 60% of my listenership was female. So there's all kinds of surprising things that happened when I look at the data and whatnot. What people were paying me for was to help them with their podcast, to help them with their Instagram, to help them with video clips. They're paying me for a lot of different things because I didn't have clarity yet, which, by the way, if you really want to leave that day job, as soon as you can get super clear on who you serve, what their problem is, how you can solve that problem, and what success looks like, that's when things take off. It took me a while to get there. To answer your question, it took me a while to get there. I was trying all these different solutions for all sorts of different people until I finally, about a year ago, Jim, realized podcasting. I'm not worried about all this other stuff. I want to help people build status and sales with podcasts. I want to work with busy professionals. And once I got that clarity and started diving in, it was like client, more client, group. I have a group for podcasters as well, and that's continued to grow. And it got to this point where I'm like, I think we got something. It took a long time to get here, but we think we got something. And just 3 months ago, I was able to leave the job. I was able to leave that day job and focus solely on this. And I want this for more people because it is completely transformed who I am. We need more people doing this, because anytime you go into a restaurant, retail establishment, nobody wants to be there.
Very true.
I saw this TikTok video of this person who was screaming that they had to go to Starbucks on the weekend, that their boss had given them a weekend job. I'm like, I hear you. Yeah. You got to start something.
Yeah, the other thing I love, you and I have a very similar businesses, Mark, and I have an abundance mindset, and there's plenty of podcasters out there, right? So, and I think you and I, should talk after the show and absolutely, connect and help each other. But the other thing I love about your stuff and your business is that there is a done for you element and there's a DIY element. And so, you know, as someone that works with other podcasters, you have conversation with someone, and sometimes that conversation is like, well, this person kind of knows enough to be dangerous about how to get something up on a podcast host and how to do this and how to do that. I can just show this person how to do that, maybe consult them and kind of walk them through how to do it, maybe their VA, and sort of, you know, tell them how to do it, and then send them on their way and go, you know, have fun, and I hope you're able to monetize, and, you know, come back to me if you need, you know, for me to consult. But you also have, and this is what I do in the business that I have, and that is, you don't want to know about any of that stuff. You just want to show. You just want a podcast. You just want to be able to walk down into your office, fire up your camera, your microphone, have a guest in front of you, and be able to have a show, and you handle it. So in your business, you know, you have sort of both. So how have you been able to manage that with Mark Savant Media?
Really important question, really important point, I think, that you just laid out here, Chris. I kind of alluded to this a moment ago, is if you're going to be able to leave your job, if you're going to build at least get to that 6-figure mark, we need to get clear on what problems we solve. What's the problem that people have, and how can I solve it? And my big ticket offer is that production, the podcast launches, the weekly production. That's big ticket, though. Not everyone is spending $5,000, $2,000, $1,000 on services and consulting, right? For whatever reason, they're not there. I was getting off of so many phone calls with people like, Mark, I love you. I want this podcast to work. I want to make it happen. I don't have $5,000 for a podcast launch. I just don't have it. And I was like, I hear you. How can I still provide value to this person? I don't, you know, how can I find a way to work with this person? And so I launched this community, the Podcast Savant Pro community, in January or so. And we just meet once a week, and we talk about, hey, what are you working on? What's winning? How can we refine our messaging? How can we generate more income from this show? How's you're running ads to your show? How's that traffic look? Are they real listeners? Are they just robots? What are we looking at here? And so by melding the minds together, it's been a really powerful experience, which solves a real problem that podcasters run into, which is loneliness, not knowing what you don't know, connecting. And so it's been really powerful there. The goal, though, however, and again, when we're building a business, we do want that cohesive strategy throughout, I believe. The goal, though, is, hey, you get in a lower level in a community that's inexpensive. You learn what it's like to work with me. You learn what it's like to build your podcast. Then eventually, when you get to the point where you can afford it, who are you going to choose? You're going to go with Mark Savant Media, right? Because Mark Savant Media gave you the low ticket offer, and we helped get you to the higher ticket offer. And that's a way that I really like to think about businesses. How can I impact people at the lower ticket level so that when they're ready at the higher ticket level, they're hopping on board? And I'll just give one shout out to Alex Hormozy. That's his game. Yeah. That's the Alex Hormozy game with the $100 million offer. Is I'm going to give you all this stuff for dirt cheap, because when you make it, you're going to come back and you're going to find me. And so far that's been, we're in the planting seed phase. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you're a company that's fairly well known, when you first start a podcast, you really got to build the reps. You got to, your first podcast is not going to be as great as your second one. It's not going to be great as your third one. So you have to, it's almost like, start here, and then everyone's going to get better. You're going to get better if you're producing it. They're going to get better because they're, at being a podcast host or a guest on other things, which I'd love to get into as well, because typically you're a podcast host. You host, you have a number of podcasts, NFTs and after hours as well. But tonight you're the guest. You're on the other side. You don't have to push any buttons. We're pushing the buttons for you. Speaking of pushing buttons, we do have a question here on Amazon from our friend Jeff C., who does Social Media News Live. So if you're not following Social Media News Live with Jeff C. and Grace Duffy, it's the best show on the interwebs. And so Jeff's got a great question. What are some of your tips, Mark, on marketing your podcast business?
It's such a great question. And I think that probably the most important thing for a business owner is think about is, where am I going to get sales from? Where are they coming from? Where are we going to get them? And, a lot of people say word of mouth, and word of mouth is certainly important. For me, I just try to put my face in front of as many people as possible. Right. And that can be just doing something like this, going on a podcast tour.
Yeah.
Try to get on as many podcasts as you can. I mean, there's a reason why this industry is blowing up right now. And that's because marketers, influencers, authors are learning that podcasts are a great way to spread a powerful message to many people. So that's one way, and that works. You will get clients by doing that. I love going to networking events. I don't know if I'm a sadist of some sort, but they're so easy to get to, right? Like if you really wanted to, you could be in a networking meeting every day of the week, just on Zoom. And that's a great way of meeting potential clients. Now, one of the things that I have really worked on and refined, and again, one of the things we work on a lot in the group is, how can I refine a really clear message that speaks to the person that needs to hear me, right? Because one of the problems that comes in those networking groups is everyone is just tuning everyone out until it's their chance to talk. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not where you want to be when you're in a networking group, especially on Zoom. You want to look good. You want to have some nice gear. You want to have some hot lighting. Got to have a decent mic. And you don't have to have a $400, $500 mic. You can spend $80. You get a really nice mic. The ATR 2100 was awesome. I still have it. I still use it. So the ATR 2100 is a great mic, but getting into networking groups, and I want to give a little bit. I'm just been loving books recently, so I'm shouting out a bunch of books.
Yeah.
I want to shout out Donald Miller's Story Brand.
Great book.
Awesome. And he has a little exercise in the end of the book that is just so good. And I kind of alluded to it earlier, but it's developing a one-liner that really impacts people, that really makes people like stop and listen. So generally you want to build a one-liner that revolves around who your ideal customer is. Who are they? You can't be everything to everyone. Who do you want to work with? What's the main problem? What's the main pain point that they have? What's your solution? And what is success going to look like after they've experienced your solution? And the better you are at refining that message and refining those four things, the more powerful your messaging is going to be, the more powerful your marketing is going to be everywhere across the board. But in this example, I mean, this is how I'm meeting people in networking groups, and it works. I'm landing clients, and it's fun. It's fun talking to people. And it also, by the way, doesn't hurt when you're in a fun and exciting industry.
Right.
Every meeting I go to, everyone's like, I'm a realtor. I do payment processing. I do mortgages. And I'm like, I help busy professionals build status and sales with podcasts. And they're like, you do what? Yeah, I run a podcast agency. And then everyone just wants to park next to you in the room. So
if you could, for me, Mark, just because you breezed through that, let me hear that again. I help busy professionals. How does that go again?
I help busy professionals build status and sales with podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we call a golden ticket. That's how you do it. And listen, you may not have that. It may not be exactly what Mark said, and it probably isn't. But when you hear that, you know exactly what it is. You know exactly who he's serving. You know exactly, what he can do. We talk a lot about, Mark, identifying who your avatar is, right? And this is what we're talking about: identifying who your key listener is, who your key consumer, your viewer, whoever that is, what their problems are, and then your content. What you're doing is solving those problems, right? Dealcasters is here on Amazon and all of these other places because we want to solve the problem that people have with presenting and producing shows, producing podcasts, producing live streaming. this is what we're doing. But you added another element to that, and that is the results. You're envisioning the results, the success that they have, and adding that to that. How do you do that with your clients? Like, what are some examples of maybe some clients that you work with that what their ideal results are, and how did you get to that point?
So with any business, right, painting a picture of what success looks like, that's super, super important. Whether it's, politics and what life's going to be like when they elect you, or whether it's in a business, what it's going to be like when they give you $1 or $10,000 or 100, whatever your offer is, right? Painted success is really important. And I think the best way, at least for me, was listening and paying attention. And quite frankly, paying attention, not necessarily to my customer, but paying attention to my competition.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One of the fastest ways to get ahead in your business is to look at what your competitors are doing. What are the successful competitors doing? There's a reason why they're doing that. And that's probably because they understand that that's what works. If you're speaking to busy professionals and you're not talking about money, you're missing, there's something missing there. That's why everybody talks about money when they're talking to busy professionals, because that's the major pain point. That's what success can look like. So that's part of it, right? Looking at your competitors, what are they doing? What does success look like? How can you be different? But then there's another aspect to that. And can be really powerful. It can get you into trouble. And that's saying, this is the status quo. This is what everybody else is doing. This is why I do it differently. I don't do it that way. I do it this way, and this is why. And that's a really powerful tool for differentiating, going against the status quo. And I've been looking at different ways to do that. But one of the ways that I've been looking at doing that in the podcasting industry specifically is by really honing in on helping people land guests that want to pay to be on their show.
Wow.
And sometimes podcast purists get angry when I start talking like this. They start.
I'm not going to get angry, but I don't know. I'm slipping down a slope right now. But Mark, we're going to get into it. I love it. I want to hear all about this, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I'll toss the mic back over, to y'all. But I found that in the industry, nobody talks about paying guests. Everyone is. But here's the reality: that you have these podcast booking agencies that are making thousands, tens of thousands of dollars finding guests. And you're the host, you're the podcaster, you're the one who's putting blood, sweat, and tears. You mentioned, Chris, backstage that you edited 8 episodes today.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the vast majority of podcasters are doing all this work, tens of hours every week. They're not getting paid anything. And I think that I would like to change that narrative. I like to change that to, you're a guest, you want to come in front of the business, the audience that I've built over the past year, 2, 5 years. There's a guest experience charge. And that helps with the production of the show. That helps to improve the quality of your show, because now you actually have some cash coming in. You have some cash flow. And so that's the tip of the iceberg. But I'm very passionate about this because I think it's a really, and people get very upset too when I start talking like this.
But you know what, Mark, at Podcast Movement, there was definitely some conversation about this. And I actually, when I thought about it, right, like you take a step back for a second, it's like, okay, if you're going to bring on your business that's looking to make money, you're going to come on Mark Savant's show and talk about something that when you get in front of his audience, who has the target audience that's going to make those purchases, I get that. It's like, you know what? I'm bringing you into my house, and you're going to walk away with money in your pocket if you do your job, because Mark's going to do his. So as much as I think initially, right, you get that, oh, I never pay to be, it's one of those, never say never, because you might find that actually there's some value, and you're also, it's going to be tough. And our friend Jesse is saying the same thing. He likes the idea, but it is going to be hard to adopt. But I have seen there are some people that are paying to be on podcasts, or I think there's even, Chris, you've talked to me about this a little bit. I think there's some networks where they all pay to be in it, and then they're on each other's shows.
Well, I mean, and I think it's, Mark, you mentioned this. It's like, there's a lot that goes into this, not just the amount of money for the equipment and the gear and the hosting and all of that, but the time that goes into it. And after a while, you're okay. The downloads don't warrant the sponsorships and like all of the monetization that goes into it. So everybody's looking. Listen, we're on Amazon. We're monetizing here on Amazon. There's no secret. When you click on Amazon and you see Dealcasters, it says we're a part of the Amazon influencer program and we make commissions based on what is sold here. Okay, that's monetization. And why wouldn't you want to say, okay, 4% of whatever's purchased on this show goes to us as commission at no cost to you? That's fair. That's absolutely fair. And what you're talking about, Mark, is fair as well. If there is a value for value trade that's going on here, it's why I like, and I don't know, Mark, if you're familiar with what's going on with value for value and what Mark Courier's doing, or Adam Courier, the Podfather, is doing with value for value. And I'm sure you're aware of this, being in the NFT space and where you basically Satoshis are going out of your digital wallet while you're listening to a podcast, because it's like, okay, if I'm getting value by listening to Social Media News Live with Jeff C. and Grace Duffy, and I want to pay them X amount of money, and that could be $5 an episode. So every time I listen to something for 45 minutes, they're getting $5. I'm just throwing this out. Jeff, I would probably pay you more than $5. But, my point is this, like, if I feel like I get value every time I listen to After Hours Entrepreneur, then I should pay for that. I pay for cable that I don't even watch. Right. And so why would I not want to pay Mark Savant for valuable content that I'm now listening to for free? And so everyone is scrambling to look for opportunities to monetize. So I totally understand what you're saying, but there's the traditionalists. It's kind of like Major League Baseball traditionalists. It's like, you will not pay to be a guest or on a podcast. It's crazy.
There's a lot, and I'm speaking to my attorney about this and various issues that pop up with bringing on paid guests and paid sponsors and such, so on and so forth. I think though, the reality at the end of the day is there's the vast majority of podcasts die before episode 10, and
Yes.
I think that's because we don't, these people, we don't see the return. Sure, the return can be far off, but I don't think it needs to be. I don't think it has to be. I think I love the word invest, which brought up a few times here, but investing in yourself, investing the time, it pays off big. You're just not going to be satisfied waking up doing the same 9 to 5 every day, working for a boss, eventually getting phased out because there's some 19-year-old that knows how to do TikTok and you don't, and or understands how to do metaverse sales and you don't believe in the metaverse or whatever. You're going to get phased out. Now's the time. And podcasting is a very powerful tool. I love podcasting, obviously, and helping more people get into it and stay involved with it. It's a really great. There's so many great voices out there, and as more and more people leave traditional media sources, they're going to find you. They're going to find your podcast, and there's got to be ways for you to generate income so that you can keep the show rolling, baby. You can keep that message going. That's what I want to see.
I love the passion, man, and it's why I got into this business as well, because I don't know if I don't want to speak for you, but I saw a bunch of people that were doing great, that had great content. They just didn't have their act together in terms of how to do a podcast, and their audio maybe was wonky or their video was wonky, but they had really good, valuable content. I was like, I can help this person. I can help this person launch their show and get them to the point to where they need to be, because I would love for more people to be able to hear this, and you saw the success early on, right? Where it was like, you start to do a podcast and all of a sudden you're getting found.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that I got found immediately, but one thing that did happen is when I started my podcast, I started thinking, this again, about 4 years ago, I had no history in marketing. I was thinking about what happens if I go to Google and type in Mark Savant, or I go to LinkedIn, type in Mark Savant. I was not showing up.
Yeah.
There's this other Mark Savant. He's a doctor in California. I see you, Mark. I see you, Dr. Savant. And he was popping up everywhere. I could not top the charts, but I will say that over the course of the last few years, you can't, Dr. Mark Savant, I'm sorry, but you're gone, baby. You're gone. You can't find him anywhere. It's all,
beautiful.
You go in, you see Mark Savant Media on YouTube, and then the podcast and the guest podcast. And then I'm all over the place. So, it's a powerful tool for being found.
It's like a little battle you have with Dr. Mark Savant. I love that. But it's true. Google loves podcasts, and getting found is people talk about know, like, and trust all the time, right? So, and the basis of your business is to get more sales, right? So you're working with clients to get more sales. And a lot of people look at that and they go, wait a minute, how is a podcast going to get me more sales? And so, when someone asks you that question, what is it? Do you start with the search, as far as, hey, you get found, and then, this is how it generates sales, or what's that conversation look like?
Well, you probably recognize this too. It depends on the client. It depends on their exact goal. It depends on the way that they want the exact benefit they want their business to return. But I think that one of the best ways to generate sales from a podcast is using it as a direct selling, or maybe even an indirect selling tool. And I'll give you an example. A client of mine sells a very expensive DNA kit to police agencies around the country, around the world, in fact. It's expensive, tens of thousands of dollars, and it's able to solve cold cases. It's really remarkable, taking DNA off of 100-year-old bones and stuff. It's pretty wild. So he has this very expensive DNA kit. And what he does is he uses the podcast as a way of inviting decision makers onto the show. Says, hey, today we've got the chief investigator from Denver PD. Hey, and you develop relationship, you build momentum, you lead with value. And then when done correctly, that can lead to a sale. That can lead to sales with that decision maker at that business. So it's a very powerful B2B sales tool, which is one of the reasons I like working with busy professionals, because that's it's very easy to monetize a show very quickly when you're using it like that. Because how many times do you get this message on LinkedIn? Oh, he says to me, you buy myself buy myself. 5 minutes later, you finish the paragraph and it's like, click this link to buy now. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. And, it's much easier to say, hey, love what you do. Love to invite you on my show. It works almost every time. Yeah. And you're going into the sale leading with value. It's not take, it's give. And that changes the relationship dynamically right from the front.
Well, and I guess too, going back to Chris's comment about Google loving podcast, I mean, now they're using, or, still trying to figure it out, YouTube is going to have podcast. How are you looking at working with that, Mark, or you're not really worrying about it because you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah, well, both for me and my show is on Google Podcasts. It's also on YouTube. YouTube is a great place. I think we're streaming live. What's up, YouTube? We see you over there. Make sure you hit the like button, smash subscribe, hit the share button. Do it now.
Where's the bell?
Yeah, hit the notification bell if you haven't yet. Make sure you check your Google Chrome extension. Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, I love YouTube. One of the things that's really interesting to me is Spotify and Spotify's place in the market. I don't use Anchor as a host right now, but if you're hosting on Anchor, you have the ability to push video to Spotify. And that's something that I've got my eye on as well. Rumble is starting to pick up steam. I don't know where that's going to go, but they're publicly funded now. Right. So Rumble could be a thing. The last time I checked it out, it was it was just very political, which wasn't interesting to me. But there's so many different players getting into this podcasting game, which is something that I try to pay attention to. Doing what worked 10 years ago, I don't think is a great way to go in way to the next phase of what happens next over the next decade. I'm looking to see how can I get in early, develop a relationship with this company early. Maybe it's a financial relationship too. Maybe I'm exclusive there. I have a friend who got an exclusive deal with Spotify. He's making millions of dollars on just because of his exclusive relationship there. So how can I get in with a new company, see their need, see their problem, offer a solution, and then paint a picture for what success will look like, right? I just use that formula over and over and over again. And developing relationships with new up and coming platforms is a great way to win. And I'll give you a perfect example. When you're setting up your podcast RSS feed, there's a lot of hosts that won't be suggested, or a lot of distributors.
Right.
And Ghana is the largest podcast distributor in India. A lot of people listen to it. A lot of people in India. So I reached out to them, said, hey, I'm on your platform. Would love to collaborate. Let me know how I can help. And they actually tweeted out my show twice to their fans on Twitter. So shoot your shot.
Yeah.
Try to connect. Try to build a relationship.
I love that. And so we've talked about, and I need to hang on a sec here. Here we go. We've talked about this podcast. And so if you're on Amazon right now, or you listen to podcasts on whatever player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts has come up. There's some great players that you may listen to, whether it's Pocket Casts or Overcast, which is another great app. Amazon Music is a podcast player, and After Hours Entrepreneur, wow, say that 10 times fast, right? Is available for free. Okay, for free, ladies and gentlemen. There's no better deal on Dealcasters than free. And I'm not joking when I see how, Chris Do, Pat Flynn, Sean Cannell, that's just like Atomic Habit, Roberto Blake. That's just like of the last 10 episodes I just named, like, again, Mount Rushmore of podcasters, live streamers, entrepreneurs right there. I listened to the Chris Do episode, Mark. That was absolutely fantastic. I love the way you put your episodes together. By the way, I'd love to nerd out with you on that. I'm not sure if our listeners get into that or not, but I just, there are so many podcasts, Mark, that you listen to, and the first thing you're hit with is little intro music, and here's everything about me, and here's what I like to do, and and it's the same intro sort of every time. And you have this really great way you stitch together your episodes, where you're pulling out a nugget from the episode, and you're putting it right at the front end. And it just is a nice hook, because I think a lot of people that are putting together a podcast, they don't understand how that works. That, when someone hits play, it could be the first time they've ever hit play on that podcast. And it could be the Hook Point podcast. It could be the Kristen Corpian episode. It could be the Blake Hutchinson episode. It could be the Chris Do episode, because they Googled Chris Do. But you're hitting them with content right off the front that hooks them in. And then once you got them in for a few minutes, you got them. And I love how that does. And I think that's an art form that a lot of podcasters really don't do. How long did it take you to get to that point, to where you were putting together episodes like that?
Oh gosh, I've experimented with so many different ways of doing it. I'll tell you what, it helps having a production team. It helps a lot, which again is why you need to generate income, so you can pay people who can do it better than you. But what I learned is when you're actually in the episode itself, you can take really brief and quick notes that help save you so much time in editing. Oh my gosh. And here's something that I do. Every once in a while, or multiple times during an episode, the guest is going to say something you're like, oh, that was really good. That's exactly why people are here. That's the problem that people need a solution for. And what I'll do is I'll just notate the time. Maybe it's 30 minutes in. I'll just put plus 30.
Mm.
Then I know when it comes back to editing, I want to take out this clip at 30 minutes. That's going to be the hook. Maybe that's going to be an Instagram reel or a TikTok video. And by being more thoughtful during the recording process, it makes my future self much happier, because future self can spend date night with the wife rather than trying to find the perfect moment during the episode.
I love how that's driving you. It's like date night. This is not the first time, like pre-show, you were bringing up, you know,
right.
date, and you had early date night
Early date
tonight,
night.
and you know, date night becomes, and that's important, right? Because I think the whole idea behind why you're doing this is so that you can live life on your terms. And the job that you were in, you were like, this is not working for me. You know, I have more important things than working. And so I'm going to be able to dictate this stuff on your terms. So you know, tell us about that. Tell us about your family. Like, what's you know, what is your passion here
Oh God.
for life?
Yeah, family is the driver. It's really what got me off my butt and got me working. The challenge is when you're leaving your job and you're building your first six-figure year. It's a lot of fun because you're getting to work on this project. You're solving these problems all the time. It's like a video game in a way. But you can start to become obsessive about it. And like Denise says here, date night is so important. You know, I think about Walter White from Breaking Bad, and, you know, he gets sick and all he needs to do is just needs to make a lot of money so he can leave his kids, you know, just so his kid can go to college and the home is paid off. That's all he needs. So he goes out and he cooks Crystal, right? So he went a different route for anyone that doesn't get that. And I won't give spoilers. I will say this. If you lose sight of what's important on that quest, it's not worth it anymore. The quest isn't worth it anymore. And I spoke to my wife about this the other day, because she was saying, you know, Mark, you know, I feel like we don't spend any time together. Every Friday night you're in your office and you're working and we don't spend time. And what I did was I took a note from James Cleary's book, Atomic Habits, which, by the way, you get it on Amazon. That book is incredible. Atomic Habits, really, really good. Like, you need to have bought it a week ago. So good. And there's a section in Atomic Habits where James says the chances of you actually doing something double to quadruple if you actually write down when you're going to do it and where you're going to do it. And that was the problem that her and I had. We said, yo, we're going to try to find some time on Tuesday night. And it just didn't happen. So what I did is I read that excerpt to her. I said, listen, I'm going to read, because at first when I told her I'd have to put her in my calendar, she wasn't thrilled about it.
That's not so romantic, is it?
Yeah. Like, send me an email. She wasn't, she didn't go for it at first. But when I read that page from Atomic Habits, she was like, oh, okay, I get it. So I've got her marked down. We're marked down for date night, at least 30 minutes every night this week. And
Wow.
Again, it's not worth building your six-figure business. It's not worth leaving your job and building something if you don't get to spend time with those that you love. And if I can definitively say, if you're not thoughtful about it, it's very easy to get those things pushed off. It's very easy for family and friends to get pushed off the back burner. And that's not where I want to be.
I love that so much. And you know, I think this word gets tossed around a lot, but if we're going to wrap that up into a word, it's being intentional, right? And that's, you're saying, okay, this is very, very important for me. And in order for me to do this, I have to carve it out this way. And that way I know it can get done because it's that important to me. And that's why we do it. That's why, that's why we have businesses. That's why we're entrepreneurs. That's why I left a job working for Sony for 28 years, because I'd rather be a father and a husband than whatever the title that I had at Sony Music, because that is your legacy. That's what you have. That's what's going to drive you. And that's, and I don't want to be like my coworkers were on their fourth spouse. Because I want the spouse I chose, or I guess she chose me. I don't know how that works.
Hopefully she's not watching right now, but
right. So Jim, quick, we got to put Atomic Habits.
I
in the
did. I already did.
All right. Artist
I
at heart, Denise Lipka. By the way, you guys need to, if anyone's watching on Amazon, and if you haven't, go over to dealcasters.live, but go and search Artist at Heart. Denise Lipka is fantastic. Amazon content creator, a wonderful human being who joined us at Podfest and VidFest. Now, you were at Podfest, Mark, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How did we not connect at Podfest? How did that or did we? It was such
that
a
was
blur.
a big I'm sure that we at least I remember I'm sure that we at least shook hands briefly, but there were so many people there.
I know.
There were so many people. There were people that I knew that I was excited to see in real life that I didn't even get a chance to say hi to because it was so busy. I was there for 4 days. Cannot wait for Podfest again in January. It's going to be so fun.
Are you going to speak there, or are you just going to attend and soak it? Okay, you are. Okay,
I am. I'm going to be speaking about how to make $1,000 a month from your guests. That's what I'm speaking about, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers, baby. I'm going to go in there prepared. It's going to be good. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the people that leave that session are going to walk away with a real strategy, real action, word templates on how they can actually start to make money on their show that same day. And that's what I want to see. Because if you can start making money, then you can use that money to run ad traffic. You can use that money for production. You can use that money to get your wife flowers, whatever you want to do. You got some money there to elevate the show. But more podcasters, more empowered with more cash means better shows. Better lives.
He probably didn't see us, Chris, because we were in a room for a full day.
Well, he was there for 4. Where were we the other 3, Jim? I guess we were recovering from the day that we were doing.
Recovering from the one day, and we did have to entertain our beautiful brides as well.
James Hicks, we see you over on Amazon. Thanks for joining you. Jeff C., he will be there in January as well. So we need to have like a show with the 4 of us. And is Grace going to be there too this time, Jeff? Grace better be there as well for Social Media News Live. But Mark, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been one of, if not the most valuable show that we've had. I think you just dropped some amazing things that people can take in their entrepreneurial journey, in their podcast. I mean, someone that is just starting out has gotten so much value from this, and someone who's been doing this for years. It's the same thing. And so, Mark, I appreciate you for joining us tonight. And so for those of you that are watching, make sure you head on over to Mark Savant Media. And of course the After Hours Entrepreneur and yeah, there it is. And the NFT podcast that you have as well is called, and this also in our carousel.
Yes.
NFTs Made Simple.
NFTs Made Simple as well.
That sounds like my speed.
Yeah, got to keep them simple.
Don't
get me started. I started talking about NFTs at Thanksgiving or at during the summer vacation, and then my whole family's like, "Mark, just stop. Just stop. Don't get me started."
You want to clear a room, start talking about NFTs, right?
Pretty much. That's one of 2 ways to clear a room.
Awesome. Thanks again, Mark. We appreciate you joining us, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, Chris, Jim, make it a great day. Dealcasters, go pick up one of those books we talked about.
Yeah, let's do it. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, don't fear the gear.